Continuing on with three-round mock drafts, we're into the 20s with the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix was better last year than I thought he would be. I still don't buy into him as much as everybody else does, but he was certainly better last year. You made the playoffs. Nobody could have seen that coming. What do you do to help out Sean Payton? And you know Sean Payton's the one pulling the strings. I think you're going to spend your free agency dollars on a wide receiver. Watch out for Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I could see him in that Mike Thomas role that we saw with Sean Payton. I'm not adding a receiver here because of that. If they weren't to sign one, then that would change. But that's where I have this going. I'm Jeremy Green of NFLDraft.net and ESPN Radio Asheville, and this is the three-round mock draft for the Denver Broncos.
I get knocked down, I get back up.
The Sportsocracy.
And I'm unapologetic.
We start at pick 20. I would love to add one of the high-end tight ends, but they're both gone. So I'm going to look to address tight end later in this mock. So I'm going to address an issue on that defense that I saw watching film on Denver over the course of the year, and it's the corner opposite Patrick Surtain. Number 20, Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss. Look, Denver plays more of a combo defense than about any team in the league. They play a lot of man, but they also play about 30-some-odd% of zone. Trey Amos showed this past year he can do a little bit of everything. He's really good in man, really developing in zone. And I watched him at the Senior Bowl in awe of how good this kid was and managed to not at any point be talked about. I haven't heard a ton about him. I've heard him as a beginning of the second round. Maybe he sneaks into the late one. I think after the combine next week, you're going to see this name start appearing higher in mock drafts. Really good against the run, too. Something that's undervalued with corners, but something he is really, really good at. He was also tied for 12th in college football of forced incompletions. I think this kid's underrated, and I think he's a first-round pick and would be a great compliment to Patrick Surtain. Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss, right here at 20 to the Denver Broncos. Second round, now I'm going to look to address my tight end, and I'm not going to lie. Before a few weeks ago at the Senior Bowl, this was not a kid that I loved. He really showed out in Mobile. Then I went back and watched some tape on him, and I started to like him more and more to the point of now I'm almost to the love point. 52, Maason Taylor, tight end out of LSU. Look, LSU has a great history of turning guys that weren't necessarily awesome at LSU into awesome NFL pass catchers. I have undervalued LSU guys for years. You haven't seen a ton of tight ends. A lot of the tight ends have kind of gone to the NFL to die. I don't think that's the case with Maason Taylor. I think he can be a really good red zone threat. You don't see as much of that on the film, but then he got away from LSU and Mobile, and nobody could seemingly stop him. The raw is definitely there. He's a great athlete. 6'5", 255 pounds. I think he projects as a average blocker, not necessarily a plus, but I definitely don't think he'll be a negative. 50% contested catch rate last year at LSU. He only played 556 snaps, had 79 targets in those reps, and had 55 catches, 546 yards. I think he's a sleeper in this draft. Jason Taylor's kid, Maason, right here in the second round to the Denver Broncos with pick number 52. One pick left in this mock. It's the third round pick number 84. And I'm not going to lie, I bounced to a lot of places here. I considered adding a linebacker. I considered adding a wide receiver, even though I do think that they will address that in free agency. I considered a running back. Then I found a player that I think just fits with Denver to such a point that I couldn't stop. They were really good against the run last year, which is kind of wild to me considering they have three guys that are negatives against the run. So I add an established player that is really good against the run, but maybe needs a little work against the pass. It's Jordan Burch, edge out of Oregon. This kid is an absolute monster. Height, weight, speed, all those things that you could ever want. 6'6", 295, has a lot of, I think, redeeming qualities. He's a plus against the run, even though he didn't lead to a really high run stop rate. And he showed enough chops with a pass rush win rate at 15.7. But when then you watch the tape and you go, okay, but he was better against the run than the stats seem to say, and he wasn't as good against the pass as the stats seem to say. The 10 sacks are a little misleading to me. That was a good front seven in Oregon, and I think it kind of inflated him. But here's where I think the fit comes in with Denver. with Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers, you have two guys that can get to the passer. They're not great against the run. I feel like Jordan Burch would be a first two down lineman to start. Sprinkle him in as a defensive tackle in four-man fronts and then see what you have there. To me, this gives you the opportunity to move him all around the formation because he can play out on the edge too. I just don't necessarily know how much you would do that to start. Pick number 84 here for the Denver Broncos, Jordan Burch, third rounder out of Oregon. If you like these picks, if you hate these picks, if there's a player you want to talk about with the Denver Broncos, or you just want to tell me how wrong I am on Bo Nix, I answer every single one of those. We've gotten a lot over the first 19 mock drafts, so give me a day or two. I'll get to them as quick as I can. We'll be putting out mock drafts. We're at the 2025 Scouting Combine next week in Indianapolis. The Canada and David Smith and myself will be at the podium doing interviews, and we'll be there for every second of the workouts at Lucas Oil Stadium. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel to see all of our NFL draft content, and it's all leading up to the end of April 2025 NFL Draft. We're there on Radio Row for every pick. All 3 rounds this year, we will be on Radio Row in Titletown, and it's yours right here in the Sportsocracy.
I'm unapologetic. Cancel, yeah, you can try. You can't cancel what's been tonight. I ain't been had a shit, no silver spoon inheritance. Tired of trying to be what other people want me to be, and now you get what you see.